All right. Content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. All right. Great. Great, great, great. So Jim should be here pretty soon. All right. We have two people, three people. All right. The crowd is coming in. All right. How's everyone doing? I'm going to be checking out an apartment after this meeting. All right. All right. And Jim is in the house. All right. All right. All right. Sounds good to me. So let's see who's all here. All right. Let me start out with Anna. You here, Anna? Anna? Uh, or is Anna a bot? Anna, are you a bot?
She's about to come off
Anna? Say it again, Jim. She's about to come where?
a bot to come off mute.
Oh, okay. Okay, Anna, you got to come off. Let us know you're not a bot, otherwise you get booed. All right. Let us know you're not a bot, because we would hate to boot you. All right. Kim, Kim Raymond. Kim? All right. All right.
Anna is
I'll,
Anna is not a bot, so
she's not a bot.
she is in my CRM.
All right. Do we have any bots up here? Miss Sandra Halliburton, you a bot or you for real?
Sandra is a for real person.
Which one was a bot, Alicia?
A bot?
All right. If there's a bot in here, you're going to get boot. Oh, Anna Sandra Marcus. Okay, so all right, so the bots are gone. All right,
Fantastic.
Jim, I'm turning it over to you, Jim.
Thank you,
Oh, wait,
Daryl.
wait, wait. We definitely are live, just so everyone will know we are live. Let me did we start oh uh so we are already live, I guess. Oh, record to computer. Yeah, let it go to my computer. All right. So there it is. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Capital Raise Strategy session. This is where you come to learn about capital raising. This is where you come to also, if you need help getting capital, this is where you come. All right. So that we can help you with your investment opportunities, education, network, and support. That's what you get. That's what you get. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jim Biggs. Jim, take it away.
Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate it. So great to see a bunch of familiar faces and some that I haven't seen for a little while. So really, really happy to see you guys here. And we have a very special guest today, Mr. Edwin Epperson, who is a fellow fundraiser and fund manager on the platform Avestor that we are also have a couple of funds on. And Edwin and I have been talking over the last couple of weeks, and we would like to start to have some people with a little, some high level experience in how to raise capital and some of the tricks that they're using and some of the practices and maybe tools that they're using, and just share with you guys. Everyone on the call I know here is trying to raise capital. Most of the people are newer capital raisers, have not done a lot yet, or are still in maybe their second or third capital raise and still trying to figure out, okay, how can I ramp up and get to the next level? Or what am I doing wrong that I wish, someone with a little more experience could tell me? And so we're going to try to bring more guests on in that vein to help you guys out. But I want to let Edwin introduce himself. There's a lot of things I could say about who he is and his background, but I might not hit the highlights that he wants to hit. So, Edwin, I'll leave it up to you to give your brief introduction about who you are, your background, a little bit of history about who you are and how you got to where you are in this space.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jim. And thank you, Daryl, for having me on today's presentation. Look forward. Part of my big passion is education. So, in providing value, especially in the fund management space, whether you're in a syndication or a debt fund or a hybrid. So a little bit about my background. I actually do not have probably the type of background that many people would expect when it comes to the fundraising, fund management space. I barely graduated high school. My father said it would probably not be a good idea if he paid for my college because as excellent as I did in high school, it would not be a good use of his money. So I got two jobs, and then 9/11 happened. I joined the military in May of 2002 as an infantryman in the Army, and then crossed the border in Iraq and the liberation of Iraq in 2003. Very clearly remember that day. That night actually was March 21st at like 1 a.m. We crossed the border and served in the regular Army for about 8 years in a lot of small operations and a LURS D unit. I was in infantry the entire time. And in 2010, I went and crossed the fence and earned my Green Beret. So I operated as a Green Beret in an operational detachment alpha for the last 5 years of my career. And in 2015, I exited the military. Now, during that time, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like I'm sure many people have at some point in their career. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2008. So from 2008, I started to build 2008, 2010, somewhere there. Actually, it was right before 2010 when I went out to Fort Bragg. So for 4 years, and I met a gentleman out of Fort Bragg who was a private lender, and he really got me set on the path of thinking of investing through the lens of a banker, analyzing risk, mitigating risk. And that sort of fit right in line with what career path I had chosen in the military. And so for 4 years, I studied how to make loans, how to underwrite, how to process, how to find borrowers, how to raise capital. And in 2014, I made my very first loan to a real estate investor as a fix and flipper in Pensacola, Florida, while I was deployed to Afghanistan on the side of a mountain. So I had this realization that, man, if I can do this over in Afghanistan, I can do this anywhere. And so when it came back from that trip to Afghanistan, it was a tough trip. We lost about four really close friends of mine, and I'd lost countless over the years that I've been in. So my wife, girlfriend at the time, but wife said, it would really be beneficial for us as a couple if you decided to do anything other than the military as a Green Beret. And I said, well, I think there's this job that I could do really well at if I put the same tenacity into it as I've done the military. And so she said, whatever you want to do, let's just not stay in the military. So I got out. And 2014, we got back from Afghanistan. I wasn't going to re-enlist. So you typically have this 1 year of enlistment that opens up right at the end of your term. You can either re-enlist or you can go ahead and start processing out. I processed out. And in October 15 was my last day in the military. And by October of 2015, I had made 20 more loans. I deployed about $3 to $4 million in capital of mine and some partner investors. And I got out and started doing that full time. So I've been doing private lending for the majority of my career since 2015. Over the last 9 years, I have made over 150 loans, deployed 25 million in capital, and have had some good deals and not some good deals go through. So I've got the experience on both the smooth deal and a deal not going well. So now I am as of last or this year, 2023, decided to go ahead and go the fund route. And so we've been raising capital, like I'm sure many of you guys are, for your deals. Our fund is a little bit more unique. It's not necessarily a syndication like many of you are raising for a specific project. We have a hybrid model, so we have the ability to invest in mortgages, debts, is the capital stack that we focus on. But we also have within the fund the ability to invest in equity as co-GPs, as LPs, in joint venture projects, joint venture primarily being on the single family 1 to 4 unit space. On the syndications, much like what you guys are doing, we can invest as an LP or a co-GP into other syndications. So that gives my fund really a broad bandwidth to which to offer our capital investors a lot of different opportunities. And there are vast different opportunities between considering investing in debt versus investing in equity, which is where syndication will fall under, as well as joint ventures and other creative structures. So that is where we're at, and that's where I'm at, and glad to be a part of the community. Jim Biggs actually invited. We got to talk because of the fund manager community we were part of, Avestor, and so he invited me to the network, and here I am.
That's a great backstory, Edwin. I really appreciate the military service. I more appreciate the fact that that you acted without fear and really launched your career in raising capital when you were in a much more stressful situation than most of us find ourselves day to day. So I think that points to the fact that no matter where you are in your life and no matter where you are in your journey, is that you can take a step forward. It doesn't have to be a huge step, but you have to keep moving. And even the smallest step forward, you don't know where it's going to lead you. And obviously for you, it's led you down, a career path. And we're grateful that you made it through that and that you're back here, back home, and in the community. So I'd like to ask you a question that might take up the rest of the time, and we'll just see where it goes. If you could talk to yourself before you started doing this and give yourself a few suggestions about things that you did right, things that you did wrong, tools that you're using now that you weren't using, or tools that you wished you'd implemented earlier, what advice would you give yourself before you got started?
But that question will probably take up the rest of the time. And I will try to be concise, and I do want to open it up for questions, hopefully near the end of this, because I think that, engaging in dialogue is really going to be the most beneficial for everyone, including myself. I'll learn a lot just by talking with other people. I would say, obviously, in this industry of raising capital, you're tapping into potential fears as well as potential dreams and visions that people have. And so the mindset plays a really big key. And I'm sure that all of us have, gone through mindset training or mindset type of courses, reading books on that. And so for me, if I could go back and talk to myself as I was, and give my younger self some advice as far as stepping into this world, it is to temper your expectations with reality, and yet have the drive and the, what we call in the military, the stick-to-itiveness to continue to push forward. I'm sure I don't know, because I've not been able to talk to everybody on the call, but I am most positive that most of us have been through some type of course or some type of training, something that is geared towards capital raising and the mindset that you need to have going into that. And it's really important, obviously, to have a good outlook and a good plan and a good strategy of how you're going to raise the capital. But a large part, I believe what is missing from a lot of that training is setting the expectations for yourself as well as for your capital investors. And I think too many times we go through a training or a course and it's rah, rah, rah. It's, self-motivation, self-motivation, self-motivation. And then the day after the course or the event or the weekend or whatever that is, you're struck with this reality of, well, I'm not surrounded by everybody that was encouraging me. Now what? And that ability to stick to something and plan your work and then work your plan is so imperative. It is really the lifeblood and the success or the failure of your capital raising efforts. Being able to plan out this is what I'm going to do, and then work that plan, even in the face of at one investor after another saying, no, that's not right, or I'll get back with you, or let me talk to my CPA or financial planner and get back with you. I mean, all the reasons and excuses why somebody might not commit to you at that moment, at that point, at the end of the presentation. Follow on the heels of stick-to-itiveness is follow-up. And for those of you that have ever been in sales, this is absolutely critical. Follow-up is imperative to the longevity of your capital raising efforts. There have been investors that I have stayed in touch with. Now, I'm not sending out like weekly drip emails. I have found that many people find that annoying. I find that personally annoying. I will get off somebody's mailing list if I'm getting just what seems to be a drip campaign and not meaningful or thoughtful emails or points of contact, right? That's me. And that's not everybody. Some people are okay with that. But as far as nurturing your capital investor and helping them understand that what you are offering is a solution to their problem, that can take much longer than just a few points of contact, a few weeks, or even a few months. I had an investor that took 3 years before they decided to invest with me. And a lot of it was they were very captive to their broker who was advising them on dividend, like all these safe options in the stock market, and how those were vastly superior to anything in the alternative asset space, which syndications fall in the alternative asset space, joint ventures, even debt fund, investing in mortgage notes. Those are all inside the category of alternative investing. So their broker was constantly, and their broker had much more points of contact than I did with them. So it took 3 years of meaningful conversations, intentional text message, intentional emails, intentional phone calls with them over the course of 3 years to get them to that point. They said, okay, I believe what you have to offer is actually something that will fit within my business model. And I'm ready to take that step. On the flip side, Jim, I've also had people that I talk to them and they're like, I want to invest right now. And I had to take that hard look of, is this investor actually going to be beneficial to my plan and strategy for investing? And I've had to turn away investors. That might seem, well, that's great. Why would you turn away an investor? And this is one of the things that I've learned is that a capital investor, even in the case of like a syndication where they're completely passive, right? Or in the case of private note where they're just along for the ride, they've invested into a fractional portion of a note and they're just earning monthly interest payments. And then when the note's complete, it's done. But I have found that there are certain yellow flags that we as fund managers, as syndicators, as sponsors need to be aware of, that those yellow flags will quickly turn into red flags if they're involved in a deal and that deal starts to go south. You need investors in your business that believe and trust in you so that even in the case where a deal goes south, and it's not if, it's when a deal goes south, that they are fully on board and they believe that you have the deal at the helm, you've got the bull by the horns, and you are driving it forward to a favorable outcome for all parties involved. If you can find those type of investors, those are the investors you want with you and on board with you. If you find an investor that, let's think of a yellow flag that I've seen in the past. They're constantly questioning, well, is this a good deal? And I say that tongue in cheek. Like, there is a due diligence period that every capital investor should be going through, and they should be vetting you and they should be asking you questions. But at the point that they say, I'm I'm ready to invest, there needs to be this, it sometimes can be unspoken. There needs to be this attitude of they trust you. They are in the mode of whatever Jim Biggs is doing, whatever Daryl Murphy is doing, I trust you to manage my capital. I trust you to make the right decisions. And sometimes that can be a very subliminal attitude or approach in the way that they talk to you. But as a fund manager, we need to be aware of what are those keys, what are those indicators that somebody is either fully trusting me, or is there a lot of hesitancy? Do they not really trust me? And I know it's hard. And I took on a lot of investors early on that, hey man, if somebody's willing to invest 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, I was like, absolutely, yeah, come on board. And then even in deals that went good, it was a nightmare dealing with them. And after that deal was complete, several deals. So it wasn't just one deal. It was after probably a couple of my first years, couple of years, I just decided that I had to cut those investors loose. I just told them that I didn't feel it would be a right fit. And I didn't engage them anymore. And for a fund manager, especially somebody that's starting out and you're trying to raise, $1 million, $2 million, for your first deal or maybe your second or third deal, anybody that shows interest, man, you're like foaming at the mouth. Yes, yes, this is a good deal. Yes, I'm going to get more money. I'm going to be able to reach my raise. And I want to strongly encourage you to at least be willing to take a hard look when you look back on that deal. Was that investor truly a good investor for you and your project? And did they cause more problems than not? So that would definitely be one of my comments as far as the mindset and sort of looking at the capital and raising capital. I'm looking at Sonia. Yes, it is absolutely annoying, and I'm assuming that you're talking about this, or maybe you're talking about the bots. I don't know, but I'm looking over there.
I'm talking about the drip campaign.
Okay, yeah.
All the emails, yeah, exactly.
Oh yes, yeah. So and and there is something having that consistent and offering value and offering content is good. Being able to follow up with your prospects, people that are in your campaign or your mailing list, and asking them, giving them a call once a couple of months and just saying, hey, I've seen that you've got a few emails. What do you think of the emails? And just having that personal connection point with them and finding out, what is their desire for information? What is their desire for education? Some investors don't want to have any education. I've got a few that are like that. They don't care about the education. Why? Because they trust in what I'm doing and what we're doing in the fund space. So they just want to know, hey, when's your next deal? That's all I want to know. When's your next deal? Now that typically comes after somebody's invested, right? But it's a balance. It really is a balance. And the only way that we as fund managers are going to know where that balance is if we are in actual communication with our investors, meaningful communication. So that's like right off the bat, something that I would go back and tell myself those two things. Not that my younger self would listen, but that's definitely the advice that I would give.
So that brings up an interesting point. You're saying meaningful communication. And today, so much of what everyone is teaching is automation, drip campaigns, and less hands-on. How do you automate capital raising so that it's not your full-time daily job? And you're only dealing with how do you sort through the tire kickers and get to the people that are ready to invest? And I love what you said about there's an investor that you nurtured for 3 years before they actually invested with you, and there's investors that invest with you right away but take so much of your time and effort that you have to cut them loose. And I think there's a lot to be said. To Sonia's point, I'm subscribed to hundreds of newsletters, and I actually only read a few. And it's very hard to decide which ones you want to read. It's very, very hard. So if an investor is out there, and I talk about this all the time, if you're fishing in the same pond of investors that everyone else is fishing in, and you get them to sign up for your newsletter, they're signing up for hundreds of newsletters. how are you going to distinguish yourself from everyone else? How are you going to stand out? How are you going to make meaningful connections? So what would be your advice? You said I'd tell myself more meaningful connections, but what would that look like in real action?
Man, I tell you what, Jill, that's a great question. And I'm sure that if we could have a raise of hands, like if everybody was on video and I could see hands raised, how many have heard that you need to have an avatar investor and you need to develop out your avatar investor? I'm sure probably everybody would raise their hands, right? And so then it dives into, okay, well, what is an avatar investor? And most people are like, do they have money? Do they want to invest? Like that's what everybody's avatar. Okay, everybody's looking for, of course, somebody that has money that wants to invest. One of the things that really oh man, there was a book that I was reading. I actually was an audio book. My wife and I, my wife is from Colombia, South America. I actually met her while I was in the military on one of our training trips down there and met her at a gym. And we just, man, she's an incredible woman. But we go down to Colombia often to visit family, and I love Colombia just as a country, as a culture. Like it is just an incredible, incredible place. If you ever want a place to where you can travel outside the United States for extremely affordable pricing and just experience some of the most beautiful creation that God has ever made, go to Colombia. Shoot me an email, give me a call. I will give you a whole list of things to go do. So anyway, we're down in Colombia and I'm reading listening to a book, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, but it was this gentleman and he was talking about sales, but he was talking about identifying your avatar client, and he was talking about finding connection points outside of just money. And it got me thinking. So I have a connection point right now. Anybody in the military. Now, because I served, there is that connection point that I have, and it allows conversation other than just talking about investing and financing. As a matter of fact, one of the greatest things privileges that I have ever experienced is being able to connect with my capital investors on something other than money. Because if they have money, especially if they're an accredited investor, they're getting solicited day in and day out from they're getting solicitations, and the more their net worth grows, the more that they're on some list, they're on some tracker that's tracking, hey, this is how much this person's worth. So they're getting inundated. They're tired of talking about investments. What they're looking for, and I would encourage all of you to really sit down, and I might be beating a dead horse here, but sit down and hone in on who your true avatar is, and find an avatar investor that is in the area that you really enjoy. So there's several things that I enjoy. My wife and I, we love coffee. And so when I find somebody as a coffee connoisseur, like, man, I could spend hours talking about coffee and I won't even broach the subject of investing. I love cigars. I love whiskey. I grew up in Kentucky. I've got bourbon in my blood. Cigars and whiskey are like peas in a pod. They go together. And so I have found a lot of investors that those are also passions of theirs. I love diving, and on my ODA, my Operational Detachment Alpha, I was part of a combat dive team, which is probably the best kept secret in the United States Army. We actually have a waterborne unit. Most people are familiar with the SEALs, a combat operation or combat dive team on a Green Beret. That's what we do. We do the exact same thing. We're a waterborne infiltration and exfiltration team. And so diving was part of our train up and training. I mean, that was everything we had to do. And so that's a passion of mine. I love talking to people that are divers. And so finding those commonalities outside of the investing space allows you to build an avatar that is more, it's going to be more natural for you to have a conversation with them than not. And some people, I've had people say, well, I don't enjoy any of those things. I just want to work. I just want to work. And I would strongly encourage you, find something that you enjoy outside of working in your syndication or your business. Find something outside of that. Going to the gym. I love shooting guns. I'm a big gun enthusiast. Matter of fact, in the last weekend in January, business partner and I, we host it's called Beans and Bullets. We cater in Mexican food and we open it up to anybody to come down and shoot. If any of you guys are down in the Tampa, Florida area in the last weekend in January, come on down, shoot me an email and we'll send you an invite. You come out, get free Mexican food, shoot tons of different guns from, I mean, any make and model. We've had a suppressed Barrett 50 cal out there. We've had MP5 suppressed. I mean, it's been a blast. And it has nothing to do with raising capital or investing. But I tell you what, I meet a lot of people at those that hear and come out to the event. And because it's a passion of mine, man, it opens up a world of conversation. And before long, eventually somebody's going to ask, so what do you do, Edwin? And it opens up the door. Oh man, I manage a hybrid investment fund for capital investors. And we invest in mortgages, really safe and secure, monthly cash flow. And we invest in syndications and joint ventures, high equity, high return. And yeah, they have the option to pick and choose what they invest in. There you go. There's your 30-second pitch. You just let somebody know, and you're in an environment to where they're like, there's that automatic connection point. So very long explanation, but I would definitely say that needs to be something. It's quickly covered and it's sort of pitched like, yeah, fine. Like the idea of building an avatar is find somebody who's a busy professional, makes a lot of money, and they're probably going to be accredited. That is a horrible way to build an avatar. Build an avatar based on what you enjoy, because I promise you, it doesn't matter what it is. It does not matter. You will find accredited investors in that space. If you're genuinely interested in that space and you're going out and engaging in networking events or engaging in just events around that activity, you will find people that are accredited. It's absolutely guaranteed. When you find them, how you find them, that's a different scenario, right? So it depends on how outgoing you are and how much that you're going around and getting to know people. I'm actually, as much as I might be engaging on Zoom, when I'm in a room of people that I'm not familiar with, I struggle to get out of myself. I don't like being the outgoing and engaging personality. I find that off-putting for myself. And so I tend to I'm the guy that sips on a bourbon in the corner and just sort of watches the room. That's not a good thing. So it takes me some time when I'm going to a new place and I'm sure many of the listeners here might struggle with the same. I'm hoping that's the case. But even if that is your struggle, I promise you can be successful in raising capital. If you will focus on building an avatar that is not built around busy professional, makes a lot of money, but is more built around what are the things that you enjoy? Where do you like going? What do you like doing? And then putting yourself intentionally in those events, in those situations to where you can find people. So
Yeah, I think that is phenomenal advice and not commonly heard. Most all programs that you can join and pay to learn how to do this will tell you start a meetup about real estate or about passive investing or something related to the field. And what I'm hearing from you is if even an introverted, and it's always surprising to me how many of us in this are introverted. But even an introverted person will find themselves being a lot more outgoing when they're talking about something else that they're passionate about, whether
Yes.
that be guns, or whether it be hiking, or whether it be camping, or whether it be playing cards, or like you mentioned, maybe you're a wine connoisseur or a bourbon connoisseur. If you are in a group of people like that, you're going to find yourself engaging even without realizing you're engaging, because you're talking about something you're passionate about. Maybe it's sports, it's golf, it's football, whatever that is. And so I think what I'm hearing from you is, if you are planning on starting a meetup, maybe consider not starting another real estate meetup that when you're in town, you see 15, 20 of them, but maybe you start a monthly bourbon sipping club, and
I'm
you
telling
find
you,
a
you
place
got
to
it,
do
Jim.
that.
You got it.
It's fantastic. I think that's phenomenal advice, and I think that's a great way to make that deeper connection that you were talking about. So I am going to reserve. I'm going to try to reserve at least 15 minutes
Okay.
for us to have questions, a Q&A session. But before we get there, I'd like to ask you: are there any tools that you find indispensable, that you use every day, and that you think that people, whether they be free or paid for, and if they're paid for, it's like, hey, I know this is a paid, and a lot of people that are just getting started are like on a shoestring budget, but this is something that made me so much money that I absolutely was happy I paid for it. So any tools that you use regularly, or tools that you've used in the past and you said, that wasn't necessary. I'm able to do what I'm doing, especially at this stage, without, I'm not managing 10,000 people. So I don't need this particular, I don't need a Salesforce
Right.
level,
Right.
CRM.
So I would say one of the tools that I've used, and it's a great tool and it's very affordable. And I've used this tool for 9 years and I've never had to expand outside the basic, is Active Campaign. Now there are a lot of CRMs, there are a lot of different, you've got, my goodness, the industry is wrought with different, CRMs and email campaign managers and landing page, all types of things, right? But Active Campaign for me is simple to design. I can really separate and compartmentalize different people that come into the campaign via different forms that I've got. As well, it's pretty affordable. I think I've got the basic package for 500 people or 500 contacts, and it's like $9 a month if you pay for an annual. So the annual subscription is just over $100. I'm a big fan of that. Now, for those that, man, that's even a bite, right? Like that could be a big bite. And if you don't pay the annual fee, it goes from like $9 to $13 or $15, right? So maybe that's something that that's a little outside of my budget. I would highly encourage, as far in right now, I'm just talking about contact management. You figure out how to use Microsoft Word's email or what's it called, like their mailing system. So when you open up a Word document, you have the ability to go in and look at your mailing list. And I'm not going to try to do that here. Yeah, like email campaigns. Oh, sorry, Alicia. Yeah, you're going through the different CRMs. But for a budget, I have found that Microsoft Office Word has the ability to build out list using, it's in conjunction with Excel. And then you just import a list of investors, and then you can send them out letters. And let me tell you what, personalized letters go tremendously far. I was doing that. And what I would do is I would go into, completely free, I'd go into each county in Florida. So there are counties that have a higher percentage of accredited investors, obviously. I would go into the county and then I would look at the past, I don't know, 3 months in each county. And this took time. So this took some research, but I would go into each county and I'll find who had sold properties and the sell price was over, $1 million. I would go, and if they sold, so you can filter out these results. And then I would literally, I had a VA. So I hired a VA from the Philippines or India, one of those places. And I gave him my parameters. This is what I'm looking for. This is how you find the information. I need their first name, last name, company name, if there is one that, was on the mortgage or the deed that was transferred. And then a mailing address. That's all I need. And then I would have them input that into Excel, and then you can link your Google or your Word doc to that Excel form. And literally with a click of a button, I had generated hundreds of letters. And so then I would just send the letters out. Now that can be expensive on the stamps, but I was being they were highly targeted, highly targeted. So I'm not just sending out just getting a list of people and I'm sending, 10,000 letters to just any random Joe. I'm being very intentional with who my target audience is. I'm making sure that they have recently sold within the last 3 months. They had an exit. That means the likelihood that they're sitting on that capital. Somebody who sells a several $1 million asset, they're not the type of person that as soon as they sell that asset, they're going to go out and buy brand new Mercedes, buy a brand new house, go out and buy a boat. Like, these are people that are sophisticated with their investments. So more than likely they're finding and trying to identify another investment to roll that capital over into. So those are great prospects. And handwritten, getting something that's as far as an envelope, something that's sort of interesting. If anybody has ever seen The Count of Monte Cristo, I love that movie, but there's a scene where he sends out letters to everybody in Paris, France, to come and see him at his new shindig. Jim Caviezel does. And he sends out these flat black envelopes with like gold etching on it. Now, if you were to go out and get that, that's probably a little bit expensive, but I'm telling you what, that person that you sent that to, who just sold a several $1 million asset, that's not going to be the type of letter they just throw away. It's like, oh, this is spam. Like, that's a letter. They're like, oh, that's interesting. And they will open it up. I've had tremendous success doing that. And that's a very, very low budget way. And it's so interesting. The pendulum has swung the other way, right? Everything is electronic now. So getting something in the mail is even more like significant, especially when it's personally addressed. So I'm a big believer in that. So that's contact management, a little bit of raising capital from people that just cold calling, if you will, cold messaging. Another platform or another company that I believe in, I'm not a fan of paid ads. I think paid ads, people that advertise paid ads and, hey, you work with us, we'll do paid ads on Google, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and Instagram. I won't call them a scam, but the juice is not worth the squeeze. I just had a conversation with another fund manager out in Texas. He's raising a multi-$100 million fund for oil and gas well drills. And so we talk about strategies. And just this past month, he spent over $20,000 in 1 month on Google ads and LinkedIn ads and all these ads. And he hasn't had anything. In 40 days, he's raised $200,000 and he's spent, that's a 10% budget just for marketing. And so, and I say all that. So if you do have the capital, there is a company, a gentleman, I've done a lot of research and I believe this gentleman has it together, and it's all, there's no ads. You're not purchasing ads. You are actually reaching out to contacts on LinkedIn specifically. His name is Yakov Smart. I've done a lot of research on him and other companies like him. I think he's got the best approach. And it wasn't that much at all. I actually had to sign an NDA, so I can't disclose the amount, but it was definitely less than what that got paid for the ads in Texas. So those are some thoughts and programs that I've used in the past.
So we've kind of covered a lot of territory here, and I want to at least give a few minutes to. I put in our LinkedIn post. Invited everyone to join your blog, but is there any other places or links for people to reach out to you, or places you'd like to send people to?
Yeah, that blog's probably a little bit older. I'm in the process of creating a course teaching people how to think, analyze, and invest like a bank through investing in mortgages. I've not completed that course, but that blog that you posted was actually a prelude to that course, and it's been put on hold because I've been ramping up the fund aspect. So the best way to reach out to me is via email. It really is, or LinkedIn. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, my handle is Edwin D. Epperson, 3 I's for the third. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than willing to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. Also send an email, edwin@bbcfunding.com. That's BBC for Blue Bay Capital, not the British Broadcasting Company. So Blue Bay Capital Funding or bbcfunding.com. I firmly believe in giving, like, time is our most precious asset. And I believe in giving time, because if you can dedicate and invest your time into somebody else, the dividends are huge. They will pay off. And so I'm a big believer in that. I've spent hours and hours talking with people, brand new, very experienced, and everything in between. So that is probably the best way to reach out to me.
Fantastic. So the majority of your business model right now, Ed, and correct me if I'm wrong, is private lending. And then you have investors that will invest their money, and then you decide how to deploy that money. So there's multiple ways for people to interact with you or do business with you. So we could ask BBC for a loan if we're doing a fix and flip, or we could invest money with you and let you manage that money for us, or be the bank for that type of private lending. Am I accurate in that?
To a degree, and this is a whole different conversation. I'm happy to have more in depth of why we've sort of changed our model. But in the past, if you were to invest in a mortgage fund or a debt fund, is what it's called, a debt fund, a mortgage fund. If you invest in a debt fund, you're vetting the fund manager, you're looking at their underwriting guidelines, going through how does the fund manager analyze their deals, find their deals, vet their deals, mitigate the risk, shift the risk to the borrower, all these check marks, right? And then when you invest in a debt fund, it's pretty much a blind check. You're saying, okay, fund manager, I trust you. Here's my money. And then they're sitting back and getting quarterly payments until either the lockup period is done. Typically in a debt fund, it's going to be 2 years, or after 2 years, whenever you request your funding out, your principal. The way that we've structured it is actually gives more control to the investor. So I go out with my capital and we'll actually make the loan first. So we originate the loan. Within 1 week after the loans originated, we put it on our fund portal, and then the investors can actually choose to invest in a fraction of that loan. So let's say we do a $250,000 loan, investors can choose to invest as little as $1,000 into that particular loan. Now we have a fund minimum of 50,000, but once you invest 50,000, you can then take that 50,000 and really diversify it across a bunch of different loans, as well as syndications and joint ventures if you're more on the equity side.
And is there a link that someone could find that, or just email you and you'll send it to them?
Yeah. So if you'll email me, we are officially going live the 1st of January next year. And so I'm lining up fund presentations to investors. We're almost finalized with our website. So if you email me, I'll be more than happy to share with you that information. If you want to jump on one of our pitch decks just to see what the pitch deck looks like, I think that's another thing we didn't even get to cover is making sure you have a good pitch deck, how to present yourself in your pitch deck. Huge, it's key. And that can really change the tide for you from somebody who's sort of like approaching like, this is just another pitch deck. How to really capture them. That pitch deck can be critical. So yeah, if they want to reach out to me in an email, I can connect them with the right information.
So last question before we open it up for general questions is, how did you learn all this stuff? Are you self-taught? A lot of conferences or YouTube videos or library, or you joined, you paid for a lot of programs. How did your education go?
That is a great question, Jim. Again, that probably might take more time. I don't want to take too much more time. I will say I briefly mentioned this in my story. When I was in Fort Bragg, I met a private lender. So I wanted to get in real estate. Like I'm sure most people do. They read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They're like, oh man. And I read another book by Dean Graziosi, Millionaire Next Door. So Dean Graziosi's book and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's were sort of my catalyst. But I wanted to do real estate like probably 90% of everybody that's out there. Like, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to turn around and sell it. Right. And so I went to a real estate club in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Green-eyed, bushy-tailed. I was like, yes, I'm out here. I'm going to slay everybody. I'm going to raise all this money. I'm going to get people like investing in me because I'm in the military. I'm a man of honor and integrity. I definitely had a little bit more spitfire, vinegar, and pride back then than I do now. So this gentleman stood at the back of the room. He's like, I'm a private lender. If anybody needs money for your deals, come talk to me. So I was like, oh, I'm going back there. I talked to him and he told me, he said, Ed, I appreciate your passion. I appreciate what you're doing for your country and your family, but I would not loan you money if you're the last person on earth. And I was really taken aback because I value my word. And I was like, how in the world can you say that? And so he went on to explain, you need three key. Anybody that's going to be successful needs 3 keys. They need to have the time, the knowledge, and the experience. If you don't have the experience, you've got to dedicate the time to gain the knowledge to then implement that knowledge for experience. If you don't have the knowledge, you've got to dedicate the time to gain the knowledge. And right now you don't have the time. You're going through a highly intensive elite training. There's no way you have the time. And so I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I talked with him over the course of a couple of months, and he asked me a question that sort of changed my direction in looking at real estate investing. He said, have you ever thought about becoming the bank? And I said, no, that's a novel idea. I don't have a lot of money. By the way, for those that might be thinking, my parents were blue collar workers. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She works in a church in Louisville, Kentucky. So she wasn't making a lot of money. Dad's a blue collar worker. I was not a trust fund baby. I didn't have a lot of money. I had no money actually. And so this idea was very foreign to me because I didn't have that money. And so he introduced me to a few mentors. those mentors through the 4 years that I trained up in learning how to make that very first loan on the side of a mountain in Afghanistan. For 4 years, I studied, but I didn't really have a course. And that sort of was the catalyst behind me saying, you know what, there is no course out there. There's no training that actually teaches people how to invest like a bank by becoming the lender. It teaches people how to rate, like it'll teach you guys, hey, you can be a lender by investing in my deal. Like that's sort of the angle that private lending is taught, but it doesn't teach people who have the capital how to actually look at deals through the lens of a bank and make risk mitigated first position loans or even second position or whatever that is. So that's sort of the catalyst of where I'm wanting to go with the course and sort of the background. And yes, I am self-taught. I never went to college. I still haven't gone to college. And quite frankly, I never will go to college. I think it's an absolute scam, completely personal opinion here. I think it's a waste of money. And there is so much information. If you have wisdom and understanding, you can filter out the emotional roller coaster and get down to the meat and the potatoes. So yeah, sorry.
So thank you for that. So we've got about 11 minutes left. So I want to open it up to questions. Anyone feel free to come off mute if you want to ask a question, or if you want me to read the question or Edwin can read the question, just drop it in the chat. And Daniel has his hand up first. Go ahead, Daniel.
First, I would like to say thank you for bringing this gentleman on the show. I have spent I've spent a lot of years and a lot of money to learn this business, real estate. And I have gotten in this past hour more than the past 2 years and all the money I've spent from Edwin. I've never seen someone so eloquent and so knowledgeable and so confident in what he's saying. It reminded me of me when I was his age.
Well, thank you, sir. That means a lot. That really means a lot. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I'm almost twice your age. But I wrote in the chat and I sent it to the wrong person. I sent it to Darryl. Not that it's the wrong person, I sent it to the wrong receiver. I wrote, hello, Edwin, can I get your contact information? Mine is blah, blah, blah. And I said that my avatar is sports because I was a professional baseball player at one time.
Okay.
So all my friends and my fundraisers that I'm working to raise fund from are in sports.
Uh-huh.
I know personally almost all of the Dominican baseball players. The second thing I'm very passionate about is playing dominoes. A Dominican person.
I was going to say, you've got to be Latino.
No, I'm not.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm not. And talking about Colombia, my father-in-law lived in Colombia for 27 years.
Okay.
And he died in Colombia last year.
Oh, man. I'm so sorry.
But he lived a good life. He lived to be 86 years old.
That is awesome.
No, my domino came from my culture. I'm from Guyana, West Indies. And we play dominoes as kids. That's the only thing we're allowed to play. We won't play cards because cards was considered gambling.
Yeah.
And so I opened up a domino club here I play domino at my house every Tuesday and every Thursday religiously. And so a Dominican person would rather play dominoes than spend time with his wife. That's the passion they have. And baseball and dominoes are the two things that every Dominican player. I'm not singling out Dominican people, but that's what the Colombians also does that. The Argentinians does that. The Venezuelan does that. And so that's how I try to become a capital raiser. But everybody knows that I've been struggling with that part of my life of capital raising. And so listening to you was so refreshing. And that's why I would like to get to talk to you some more. I know I would like to give everyone a chance here to speak, so I would rather not say any more right now. But if I can get your contact information I think you have Edwin.
Yeah, and actually Alicia, so I sent it to Alicia and she's put it in the chat. So Alicia's posted my email.
Great.
Absolutely.
So we're not going to have time to get to everyone's questions. So I'll, if you can, get, if your question is specific, please, let's get to it as quickly as we can so that we can answer more and more in-depth discussions. I would take offline and contact Edwin personally if you can. So Mr. David Harrison, if you guys don't know him, he's very big in the as assisted living space. Very happy to have him here today. David, if you go ahead,
Well,
you have the
thank you,
floor.
Jim. Thank you, Edwin. I appreciate your service, sir. Thank you for the dedication. I had 3 hospitals in Kazakhstan and plenty of events in Bosnia. And
Wow.
about
Okay.
some countries. Yes. So I grew up in Southeast Asia. Was in Vietnam actually as a child when Dad was with Air America. So anyhow, what I'm getting at is I agree with you 100% about academia. Having spent too much money and time there, it is an industrial complex that takes advantage of families and youth. My question to you is, do you explore the family offices, the private equity groups, and others in terms of joining assets in what we would call the fund of funds? Because that's a popular movement right now because of tax incentives. And I was curious to hear your perspective, especially as a bank. Yeah.
So the fund to fund model, to be honest, I've known that it's been there, especially understanding a little bit of how the secondary markets work in the debt space. The mortgage-backed security model works in the debt space. The fund to fund model is really fascinating to me. And honestly, that's sort of what has spurred my desire to get more into the syndication space, because my investors, I'm raising capital, right? I'm raising a fund, and then my fund can invest into other funds. Now, some of you may or may not be familiar. There are actually 2 subcategories to a 506B or a 506C. One is a 5C3 and the other is a, Jim, you might be able to help me on this. I don't know the other one. I'm a 5C3. So I've got a subcategory of a 5C3. Jim, do you know what the other one is?
Yeah, there's at least 3. I think we're referencing the they're all very similar. 5C3, 5C7 and 1 and
yeah, something like that. So what that does is, what my fund is structured as, I can 20% of my fund I can invest into other funds. I can invest into where we are not the controlling interest, but 80% of my fund has to be in something where we are in primary control. Now, there's one of the other ones that I know that Jim just mentioned that allows a true fund to fund model, to where you raise $10 million, you can take $8 million and invest it into other people's funds. And, you're doing 2 million into your own fund. I believe that that is key. I would say that, and you bring up a good point. I've been approached by multiple family office, members that, hey, you should be a part of the family office. And here's the thing, guys, I'm perfectly fine with that. If you've got, and this is where it boils down to, if you're a new syndicator, if you're a new capital raiser, I think that would be, it would not be the best use of your time nor your capital, because to be a part of one of those family office groups, it can be a pricey price tag. So if you don't have the experience, and that's not a ding on you, we all start somewhere. So get out there and learn how to identify your avatar investor, and then find the way that you're able to raise capital from that avatar investor before you start dedicating a lot of money. Because I'm telling you, being a part of a family office, and David, you might be very familiar with this, but being a part of a family office it can be time consuming and, more importantly, capital intensive. So being a part of that. Now, if you've got the experience, like it sounds like you have, I mean, you've got an incredible experience. I think that you personally, because you mentioned it, you absolutely should be a part of some type of group like that. If you've got the capital bandwidth and you've got the time commitment, you just, man, and your foreign investors, and I'm assuming you still manage those assisted live, those hospitals.
We always find operators. So we focus on the asset, and we have a separate LLC because it's operational, and that mitigates the risk so that it doesn't involve the asset.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just real briefly, what you've told me, I think that the family office route would be good for you. As for everybody else on the call, it really boils down to, you've got to have that experience. If you're going to approach a family office, you've got to have the experience. And if you're on your first or second or even third syndication, that might not meet there, and you would be spending a lot of time and money into that. So, but for you, sir, I think that a family office option would be very, very good, beneficial for you.
So real quickly, David, I think that you would be an absolutely phenomenal candidate to join our platform with a investor for a fund. And even if you didn't want to join as a fund, you could join as a preferred sponsor, where we have sponsors that are joining the platform that all of our fund managers then have the opportunity to invest alongside you. And with with what you're doing, if you're interested, let me know. Be happy to, because we really don't have anyone, to my knowledge, on the platform right now that's specializing in assisted living. And so I think that would be a great space for you. And if you'd like an introduction to, to speak to the owners in management, happy to make that introduction for you. And then also, David, your contact information showed up as a direct message to me, so you might want to repost it to everyone in the chat. And Daryl had his hand up.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Edwin.
You're welcome, David.
Edwin, my question is real easy. Do you offer any type of mentorship or coaching program?
Formally, no. My mentorship or coaching is shoot me an email and I'll spend an hour, 2 hours. I've spent 10 hours with people before. When I say that I believe time is the most valuable asset, and I do give it freely. I do. So if somebody's got some questions now, as far as a formal coaching, as far as like taking somebody from step A to B, I don't have anything like that at all. And if somebody's looking for that, unfortunately, I don't have that planned out right now, but I'm more than willing to jump on a call, strategize. Hey, let's talk shop. Let's sort of figure out, and then, hey, we can provide some action steps and
Right.
then follow up later.
So to follow that, then, I'm currently reading the book, Six Steps to Capital Raising. Is there any book that you could recommend?
You had to put me on the spot, man. Daryl, unfortunately, I've not consumed a lot of books on capital raising.
Okay.
I honestly,
okay.
I'm sure, read up on it. I mean, read up on it, and yeah.
All right, no problem.
Which one are you reading right now, Daryl?
It's called the six. It's called the six.
And by the way, Hunter Thompson has a
Secrets.
book out there on raising capital, also, guys. In addition to the one Daryl's about to mention.
Who did you call? Jim?
Hunter Thompson has a book out there on raising capital. That's a good book. And there's a couple more that don't come to, that are not on the top of my head right now. But go ahead, Daryl.
I think I read that one. The 6 Secrets to Raising Capital by Bill Fisher.
And we don't have all of these in the GOB Network library, but there are, I believe, a couple of books in the GOB Network library. If you're a member, feel free to go in the library and check those out before you, decide if you want to get a hard copy. And also Edwin did mention that he's working on and hoping to launch a program on, how to work in his space at the first of the year. And I'm hoping that we can negotiate a special price for the GOB Network premium members. So if you are interested in that, make sure and reach out to either myself or Edwin, and showing a desire to get in that program. So, and trying to see if I have anyone else's. Oh, and by the way, David, speaking of family offices, the Family Office Club, and his name was right on the tip of my tongue, and now I'm going to forget it. But they are also on our platform.
Yeah, Richard
Wilson. Yeah. So, okay, guys, we're 2 minutes over. Great call. I really appreciate everyone coming. If you're able to come every week, we'd love to have you. Next week, we will have another member of the GOB Network speaking. He's going to be talking about how to use certain special tools that he has come across that are also going to be offered at a special discount to GOB premium members that will allow you to scrape your social media platforms for information. So I know it's something I've been looking for years. I've got over 5,000 people that are on my Facebook group, but I don't have their email address and phone number in my CRM. and the same way on LinkedIn. And I'm sure a lot of you have that on Instagram. So if you're interested in how to do that in a cost efficient way, and it's not, there's no such thing as 100% automated unless you're going to pay a VA to do it for you, but you can set it up so that it operates independently once you put parameters in. So if that's something you'd be interested in how to get, as I know most of us, we're always looking for someone else to put in our into our CRM, someone else that we can call, and another, potential. So they're out there. So appreciate everyone being here. Bring a friend with you next time, and make sure if you've got any value out of this whatsoever on LinkedIn or Facebook, please leave us a comment and help us grow the channel. So thank you very much, Edwin. Really appreciate you stepping up last minute. It was great. So
thank you, Jim. Thank you guys
Alrighty.
for listening, and thank you for having me a part of the community.
Alrighty. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.